Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'd like to welcome you all to a brand new episode of the Boombox Guru. I'm your host, LB, and for today's episode, we're going to be talking about the best industrial metal albums. So I picked 5 albums that I think are some of the best industrial metal albums. By no means do I think these are the only 5 in the whole entire genre that are good. There are so many great masterpieces and classic albums that have come out of industrial rock and industrial metal. So without further ado, we're going to get into this episode, and we're going to go ahead and start with the first of my picks. That will be Pure by Godflesh, released in 1992. This is the band's second album, and it was coming off of their groundbreaking debut, Street Cleaner. And as good as I think Street Cleaner is, I really think that Pure is actually a better album. You know, initially it was regarded as just an industrial metal album, but now it is actually considered one of the earliest post-metal albums. A lot of bands like Neurosis and ISIS were actually influenced by this record. It has slight hip-hop influences. There's a lot of harsh guitars, a lot of mechanical rhythms. It's a lot more experimental, and there's even elements of dark ambient sounds throughout the record. And vocalist Justin Broadwick, he utilizes his guttural shouts, and he also implements a lot more of a low-key singing vocals, or should I say clean vocals, throughout a lot of the songs on here. But I just think that this record is just as groundbreaking as Street Cleaner was. I think that their sound was just a bit more fleshed out on this record compared to Street Cleaner. I think in a lot of ways the group or the band or the duo, because there's only 2 members at this point, Justin Broadwick and bassist GC Green, they basically became a lot more experimental and technical with their sound. But I find myself all the time really revisiting Pure a lot more than I do any of the other Godflesh albums. So this is definitely one of my top favorites of Godflesh, and definitely one of my top favorite industrial metal albums. So definitely check out Pure if you haven't checked this album out at all. Classic masterpiece. All right, so next album on my list is Ministry with The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste, released in 1989. And this record, this was actually the album where Ministry fully transitioned into an industrial metal band. Now, they actually flirted with this genre on the previous record, The Land of Rape and Honey, but there were only maybe a few songs on there that actually implemented like guitars. But this record, they fully went into it full-fledged. I mean, they were inspired by thrash metal, so Ministry started to add in faster tempos and more aggressive guitar riffs. And it's very political. You know, a lot of the subject matter is about politics, you know, society, drugs, isolation, things of that nature. Very dark dystopian sound, very apocalyptic. But it's just a great record, man. A great masterpiece. So many classic songs on this record. Definitely a record that set the stage and pioneered the industrial rock and industrial metal movement of the 1990s, along with Godflesh and Street Cleaner. So definitely a groundbreaking record that I recommend for anybody that wants to get into industrial metal. You will not be disappointed starting with this record. So definitely check out The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste by Ministry. All right, next album on my list is by a band that probably not too many of you watching right now have really heard of, but they're a band that I got into about a year or two ago, and I really enjoy this band, but I really enjoy this album specifically, man. This is Shotgun Messiah. This is their third and final album called Violent New Breed, released in 1993. Man, some awesome industrial rock, industrial metal. These, I don't know why this band wasn't bigger than what they were. I mean, especially with this album. Honestly, I would say that this record is like 9 Inch Nails turned up 10 times, man. Honestly, it's just that heavy, man. You know, as opposed to the glam metal and hard rock sound of the previous 2 albums, the band they go for a heavy industrial rock sound. And like I said, imagine 9 Inch Nails turned up 10 times. Or if 9 Inch Nails had continued with that sound of the Broken EP, it's that sound just amped up, just turned up notches, man. And this is often an overlooked album in the industrial metal genre. although a lot of people consider it a classic in the metal community. I remember I made a post about this album on Instagram, and I got a lot of hits off of it. A lot of people were talking about, man, love this record, great record, man, classic album, their best album. Man, you're so fortunate to have this in your collection. But just a wonderful record, and I listen to it all the time. It's just so heavy, and I like their previous records too. Specifically their second album, Second Coming. But this record right here, it was just so much heavier and aggressive. Uh, I don't know why it wasn't bigger than what it was. It definitely should have. It definitely should have been right up there with Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, Godflesh, all those bands in the 1990s industrial rock and metal scene, man. It should have been right up there as one of the top tier releases, man. But it became a very cult classic amongst industrial rock and metal fans and metal fans in general, man. But this album is pretty rare. This is probably one of the rarest albums I have in my CD collection. I was fortunate enough to find it for a very reasonable price on eBay. To my knowledge, it's not available for streaming or anything on Spotify. That's just how rare it is. But if you do happen to find a copy of this album anywhere and it's for a reasonable price and it's in good condition, I highly recommend that you get it, because you will not be disappointed. This is a great industrial rock and metal record, man. Definitely go on YouTube, wherever you can, find this album and check it out, man. It's a wonderful masterpiece in that genre. Violent New Breed by Shotgun Messiah. But my next album on my list, and this is by Pitch Shifter, called Desensitized, released in 1993 as well. Yes, this is their second album. And another rare record. This is another rare one in my collection. Me and some friends went to a record store called Play It Again Records, I think around last year sometime, and they had a used copy of this, and I hurried up and snatched it up because I knew I probably wasn't going to see it anywhere else for the price that they had it. But yes, this is the second album from Pitch Shifter, and this record, honestly, this is considered to be their best record. It was a vast improvement over their debut Industrial, mainly because Industrial was pretty much Godflesh worship. They sounded just like Godflesh on that first record, Industrial. But on Desensitized, man, they began to find their own sound, and they started to add in like these groovy rhythms, some very repetitive heavy riffs, a cold dark mechanical production, lots of political subject matter, lots about social injustice and oppression, aggressive vocals, sort of on the borderline death metal style. To sum it up, man, this is essentially like an industrial groove metal album, but it was a vast improvement, man. And I kind of wish that the band kind of would have stayed in that lane, because they were really doing something, man. They were really creating something kind of new with that whole industrial groove sound that they did with this record. And not only that, but I was reading where a lot of the clubs and stuff in Europe around the time this album dropped were playing a lot of the music, man. So it's very like dance floor accessible as well, man. But just a great record, man. Definitely one of my favorite industrial metal albums, man. I can't get enough of this record, man. It's just everything from the vocals to the very kind of dystopian, kind of almost industrial dance like vibe of the whole record, man. Like it's political, but it's also kind of groovy and danceable. It makes you want to dance. I can understand why this record was being played in clubs in Europe when it dropped, man. But this is just a wonderful record, man. And quite frankly, I think it's really the only Pitch Shifter album that I really care about. If you guys have any other albums to recommend for me to check out, hey, I'm open ears. But it's really the only one that I really care about that much. So, yeah, Desensitized by Pitch Shifter, another classic, a landmark album in the industrial rock metal genre. Now we're actually getting to my last and final album. And this is probably one that not too many people know about as well, because there's not a lot of information on this band. But my last pick for this episode of the best industrial metal albums is actually by a band called Crawl, and their first album called Earth. And this was released in 1995 on Pavement Records. yeah, you can't really see the cover all that well, but yeah, this is the album. I found this on eBay for a really reasonable price, man. But Crawl, this band, they actually they're from Wisconsin, and from what I've read and the research that I've done and what I get from my own listening experience, they are like the missing link between Godflesh and early Fear Factory. That's what they sound like. There's prominent use of drum machines, guttural vocals, and the vocals, these are death metal vocals. This particular vocalist, he uses death metal style vocals, and even the drum machines that are used, because they don't have a drummer in this band, they use drum machines. The drum machines implement a lot of those like kind of death metal rhythms. There's even blast beats implemented on here, some aggressive down to guitar riffs. This is a very brutal sound that compares to the previous albums mentioned. Like, this is essentially an industrial death metal album. This band basically blends death metal with industrial influences, man, and it's very brutal. This is probably the heaviest in this list. I would say this is the heaviest and most brutal album in this list, man. But it's a great listen. I mean, the production is a little lacking. It at some points it kind of sounds like a demo, but other than that, man, the raw and rough sound doesn't really bother me that much. I think it could have been a tad bit better, but it is what it is, man. I think this is a great record. They also released another album called I think it's called Construct, Destroy, and Rebuild, something like that. It kind of had a similar title to Meshuggah's Destroy, Erase, Improve, which I need to get that album myself because I heard that it was also a great record as well. But Crawl with Earth, like I said, not a lot of people know about this album either. I discovered this on YouTube one day when I was like listening to like industrial metal and industrial rock playlists, and this popped up. And I listened to one of the songs on here. I believe it was Skinned or Womb, and I really dug what I heard because I thought it was really cool how they were blending death metal with industrial, which is something that Fear Factory did with their first album, Soul of a New Machine. But it was really cool just to hear another band taking on that particular rare subgenre. But I like this album. I really dig it. If you come across it, if you find a physical copy of it, definitely pick it up. Like I said, I think it's in the same manner as Shotgun Messiah's Violent New Breed. I don't believe that this album is available for streaming or anything like that, but I could be wrong. But in any regards, man, if you come across it, check it out on YouTube. It's definitely worth a listen, man. But definitely a classic record, very underground. Alright, so that's it for this video of the best industrial metal albums. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, if you could do me a favor, hit that thumbs up and give me a like. It helps with the algorithm. Also, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be notified whenever I drop new content. Also, share this video. And I want to give a shout out to all my new subscribers, all my old ones, everybody that's been taking the time to watch these videos. I truly appreciate it. And as always, I hope everybody has a blessed day, a blessed week, and love, peace, and music. Peace out.